Hello everyone. I'm going to title this replay Cheese or Tactics. I am a Troll Slayer and I'm playing Red 4 and I'll be on the left in this replay. My teammate is Ingo, who I often play with. We're playing against Warlords and Zarakan. The reason I'm uploading this replay is I would like everyone's opinion whether what we did is cheese or is it good tactics. So to facilitate that sort of discussion, I'll just explain what we're thinking. Now, a lot of people on this map rush forward, and if they're playing on this side as we are, they would grab Alpha and Delta, and then they would spend the game fighting over Hotel and Echo. Likewise, on the other side, Blue 4 would normally grab Charlie and Golf, and then spend the entire game putting all their effort into Hotel and Echo. Now, me and Ingo don't really understand why people would continue to do that. To us, it makes more sense to drive across those bridges and grab Charlie and Golf, stop Blue 4 grabbing them, and then we don't have to spend the whole game fighting over maybe a 1-point advantage in this conquest game. This is a 1980 game, which we think plays quite differently to a normal Cat A game. So, for example, I've taken several T-80Bs in my deck and I'm deploying them straight away. In a T-80 game, they're very competitive. Maybe the best tank around, but wouldn't really stand up in a Cat A game. So the plan is essentially that I'm going to drive from India right through Alpha, doing a fast move, and drive straight into Charlie and try to secure that area. Ingo is going to drive straight through Delta into Golf and try to secure Golf, and he'll also put a small force off to the side, just making sure that their flank is secure and that they're not going to drive straight from Hotel into our flank. So obviously we had to choose a starting lineup that is appropriate for that sort of tactic. So I'm leading with a recon tank, followed by a couple of T-80Bs and a ZSU Shilka, and then there's a couple more packets behind it following along the same sort of pattern. So some more T-80Bs, some more Shilkas, or one more Shilka, and then bringing up the rear is a couple of Strellas. The Shilka's a radar, so in this sort of tactic I always want to make sure I bring on some infrared AA as well, because sending a big armoured column across there without any infrared AA means that they can just bring on some SEAD, get rid of your radar AA, and then pick off those tanks at will. So it looks like they've decided that Warlords is going to go into Charlie and Golf, and Zarakan is going to push straight into Hotel. So pretty much the same plan that everyone seems to run on this map, and that's probably why they find what we do so disruptive. I've also brought Mi-24P along just to add some firepower to that initial push. It doesn't end up doing much, but I find in 1980 games it can be quite effective. Now you'll see that there's no command vehicle in this convoy here. I've left my only command vehicle back in India because if I can push forward and take Charlie, I can cap Alpha and Charlie at will. Now, interestingly, Warlord seems to try something similar to what we are trying. So you'll see his units start going across the bridge as he brings a frog with some recon infantry around the flank, probably trying to get them around our deployment zone. But what he didn't do was put quite enough into this initial push across the bridge. So the result of that is that my tanks essentially annihilate his column and I don't take that losses. I could afford the losses that I took here. I wiped out his initial push. That frog is just sitting, waiting. Alright. Zarakan brings on a prowler quite sensibly to start getting rid of some of that radar AA, because I think he knows that once that's gone, he can those tanks pretty easily. And here you'll see the one of his vehicles target my last remaining Strela. So good play by Warlords. That was the smart thing to do. I'll just pause it briefly. When we switch to his view, though, you can see that he doesn't actually know what I've got remaining in Charlie. I know that I don't have any anti-air left, which is why I brought on that MiG, but he doesn't know that. So some more recon probably would have helped him there. That's a MiG-25 PD, 100-point interceptor. Not so effective in Cat A games, but very effective in 1980 games. I'll switch back to a neutral view so you can see what's going on. So that's obviously hit Warlords pretty hard on our left flank. Zarakan is well and truly taking control of Hotel and Echo, but hasn't capped them yet. Ingo is pushing into Golf, and although he couldn't see it at the time, there was very little left in Golf or Foxtrots. I'll just switch it to our view, and you can see that we knew the FOB was there. We didn't know where that CV was though, and we didn't know whether there are any more troops in that forest, so that's why he's pushing a bit more cautiously. That frog had come to try to land behind my deployment zone, but I did see it coming, so I brought on some anti-air quickly to deal with it. So you can see that even though our opponents are up 2 at the moment in the conquest score, we've got better control of the map because of where we put our forces. It's worth mentioning at this time that over the in-game chat, our opponents started getting quite annoyed at the tactic we were using, and I have had people get annoyed at this sort of tactic before. My argument is essentially, why would you draw a line halfway down the map and start by only trying to take half of those zones? It just doesn't make sense. Why would you not concentrate your forces, push somewhere where you're going to cause problems for your opponent, always cap those zones later? I mean, Zarakan did a good job of grabbing control of Hotel and Echo, but it hasn't really helped them because they're now just not in a position to cap it. You can see I'm starting to bring on more anti-air because that's really what I'm worried about. I'm trying to bring on a mix of infrared and radar AA. But I knew he had a prowler, so definitely needed some red AA in there. lost that MiG-25 PD. You can see now that it would be fairly difficult for me to push into Bravo and actually take that deployment zone, which I would otherwise like to do. But earlier in the game you saw that I didn't actually know. So this is pretty much what I was afraid of, and why I concentrated so much on anti-air, because of things like a Thunderbolt roaming free over my lines of tanks there. So I probably should have pushed that Strela further forward. Oh, there I go. So I start to push it forward. And I was a little bit slow bringing on that interceptor. Behind the front line though, you can see that we're able to cap Alpha and Delta in our own time, and even Hotel. And that's one of the big advantages of this tactic, that you can just take your time capping those zones behind you because you're not fighting over them. And now we're up to a +3 advantage. I know that some people would say that it doesn't make for a very enjoyable game using this sort of tactic, which I can understand. I have had it used against me as well. But something to consider would be that if we're not supposed to grab more than half of our map and we're supposed to have a fair fight for the whole game, then shouldn't I also only attack this tank with one tank? Shouldn't I make everything fair? I'd also point out that it's not a heli rush. It is actually possible to defeat this tactic. So for example, if Warlords had put more of his force across that bridge, then I probably would have wiped that force out so easily. I would have taken more casualties and maybe not had the strength to push into Charlie at all. Another way of dealing with it would be to put more points into recon at the start of the game so you can determine what your opponent is doing. I'm actually going to upload another replay where the same tactic is used on me, but because I put a lot of points in recon, spot it and defeat it. So I see this as different to a heli rush, because a heli rush is very, very difficult to counter out of the game. Some would say impossible. Whereas this definitely could be defeated. It's pretty high risk. If you get it wrong and your opponent destroys your forces that you're putting across those bridges, then, oh yeah, there we go, and Zarakan surrenders. Then yeah, if your initial force doesn't work successfully, then you've pretty much lost the game. So it's high risk, high reward. The game will end in about 45 seconds. Let me know what you think, either on Reddit or in the comments. Just whether you think this is cheese or just good tactics. I think that score is a good example where you can see that, yes, I killed 1,000 points, but I lost almost as many. It was pretty high risk. Let me know what you think.